So today I'm going to discuss the death and necromantic resurrection of liberalism. Now, I'm sure a lot of you are wondering, how the hell is liberalism dead? I mean, everybody on the left seems to call themselves a liberal, right? Well, see, liberalism used to stand for something completely different from what it is now thought of as today. Liberalism originally focused on individual rights and freedoms. Like, you had a right to pursue your own happiness free from the tyranny of others. You had a right to self-bodily autonomy, to choose what does and does not enter your body. You had a right to free speech and free expression. The marketplace of ideas was held as a very important thing. Like, you could disagree to high heaven with people, but you could not censor these people. They had a right to speak their mind just as freely as you did. Now, unfortunately, these days, what's known as a classic liberal is one who follows the original tenets of liberalism, where individual responsibility, it was all about the individual, basically. I could drag on and on and on and on with this definition, but liberalism in the classical sense was to be all about the individual. You wanted personal rights, personal freedoms, as long as what you were doing was not infringing on someone else's personal right to freedom and expression and all that, that was kosher. That was basically the idea. Now, liberalism in its original classical sense is, to me, a very libertarian ideal. Okay, let me back that up a second. Not very libertarian, but it was libertarian in its nature. The idea of a large government always falls on the authoritarian side of the spectrum. A large government will always have power to enforce rules against individuals as a collective rather than as individuals. So, a classic liberal is someone that finds themselves somewhat centrist, but with a more libertarian leaning, despite the fucking horrible press libertarianism has had. Overall, I feel like liberalism no longer stands for what it once did, and it has instead been resurrected in a necromantic way by what's known as the school of social liberalism. Now, social liberalism espouses itself as being the same as liberalism, but with an emphasis on social justice. And I'm going to do a whole other fucking video on social justice and how I feel about that, because social justice, to me, on its own, is an oxymoron. You cannot have justice in the court of public opinion. Justice as a concept does not blend with the court of public opinion. But before I get ahead of myself, that's a conversation for another day. Social justice-based liberalism is nothing short of a farce. To enforce social justice, or the idea that certain groups of people are better than others and all groups need to be equal, but some are slightly more equal than others, that whole Orwellian thing. That's what social liberalism is to me. It's what has afflicted the left side of the political divide for some time, which is why nowadays a liberal is considered to automatically be a left-leaning person. In actuality, a liberal is something of a centrist. Now, that's another word that's been maligned, and that's another one for another day, but TLDR, or too long didn't make a video for it yet. Centrism is not fence-sitting, despite what some people will have you think. To be a centrist is to believe that certain policies from the left and certain policies from the right are the ideal policies for the most amount of people in a democratic solution. So as a centrist, you do not lean particularly right or particularly left on anything. That's not to say you don't go into either extreme, but typically you can't really go to an extreme and still consider yourself center, because the extremes are where things get really, really, really weird. But anyway, with centrism, the idea is you can lean left or you can lean right on on different things. That's why you have some people who say, I'm fiscally right-leaning, but socially left-leaning. Even though there are some people in certain extreme left groups that will be like, God, that just makes you like such a fucking Nazi hypocrite. But I mean, fuck those people. They're not worth listening to. The social liberalism has picked up steam, especially in the last decade. Like, I'm only 27 years old, and I'm got vague memories of the last 9 years of my life. And I've noticed a steep, steady increase in the concept of social justice not only being accepted, but being promoted. And I feel as though it has outpaced classical liberalism in terms of growth. And why wouldn't it? The biggest caveat that liberalists have, or classic liberals have, is the idea that we're all individuals. So if you pull enough of us into a pack together, one of us is inevitably going to go, what the fuck are we doing? Are we a bunch of fucking collectivists? Fuck off! So that is one of the big trappings that classic liberals fall into, is we can't organize ourselves en masse nearly as well as the collectivist side. So they've effectively eaten what liberalism is and spat out the social liberalism, which, like I said, you can't have social liberalism. It's an oxymoron. Liberalism by its nature is libertarian leaning, and social justice by its nature is authoritarian leaning. The two don't mix. But anyway, I'm probably going to dig more into this topic with the whole social justice and how it's defined in nowadays. A couple more topics I'm going to be touching are the whole people of color. If it wasn't obvious, by the way, I said that I can't fucking stand the concept of the whole people of color thing. Like, it's racism, pure and simple, because you are effectively saying all ethnic groups are X, all non-ethnics, read white, are Y. But white is still an ethnicity, so... And that's not even touching on the whole, what's the fucking difference between a person of color and colored folks from the 50s? Here's a hint. There isn't one. But, yeah. I'm not sure if I covered this topic well, and if you feel that I haven't, let me know in the comments below, and I'll try my best to improve in a future recording. Also, I apologize for the slowness of my uploading. I'm extremely critical of myself, and the only time I really allow myself to post is when I really amp myself up, and I'm reasonably sure my videos aren't as enjoyable in those instances. I could be mistaken, and if I am, awesome. If I'm not, well, shit. But, I hope you enjoyed. I hope this video helped at least a little bit, and if anyone's wondering, the game in the background is Diablo 3. Have a good one.